I'm logged into the viewLinc server operating system, and I'm going to run the program called DIGI Real Port Setup. When it initially boots up, it's going to ask you a question whether you want to add or remove devices. You want to add a device, and then it's going to scan through your network to see what devices exist on the network. Now, in the rare case that your server is in the same network as Digi device, it'll immediately show the list with the DigiPort server. Most of the time, you're going to find that your IT department is going to put the IP address range for the server operating system in a different space than the DigiPort servers that would be located probably somewhere else. They don't necessarily have to be in the same building, and IP address ranges tend to be assigned to, physical areas of a network. So you can see that we have several different port servers running. This is the actual one that I have configured here, and I can, take a look at the DigiPort server and get the information off the device. If I go click on home, it's giving me what the MAC address is on here, what the IP address is. And when I go to here, I'm seeing that, yes, it is the same device. So I'm going to click on next. But if you don't see the device on the list, you have the option to click here and manually enter it in. And that's where you're going to manually enter in the MAC address, manually enter in the IP address, and manually tell the driver configuration software that you have 2 ports on here that need to be configured. But in this case, it's already identified. It'll bring up this screen here that confirms basically the settings that were shown in the screen beforehand. And this has 2 ports. It's always 771. And this says the starting COM ports. One note about COM ports, if you don't have COM ports on your current system, you definitely don't want to pick COM ports that are under the COM port 10. Or you want to pick something that's a little higher, so it doesn't get confused with anything that might physically be running on the server operating system. There would be nothing in viewLinc that would conflict, but since you have the options to have other types of software that may use COM ports running on the system, I typically recommend that you don't go below COM port 10. And so this is going to create 2 COM ports, one at 40, and then the next one will be 41. So I'm going to click finish. It's going to run through its little program. And at the end of this, it's going to say you've completed it. And there's also another window, unfortunately, it was hidden. But there's always this running command window when you're running that program. And at the end of it, it will always spit back all the currently installed DigiPort device drivers that are on this server. Press any key to continue. Done. Here we go. Okay. This is not a necessary step, but it is something to be aware of when troubleshooting any Digi device. And that's how to use the device manager console root interface. This is easily accessed by simply clicking on your on Windows and typing in device manager. You just start typing device manager and it becomes one of the options. So this is a snap into the Windows operating system. And one of the things this does is it gives you access to COM ports. There's 2 different sections in any Digi serial port server that you install will have entries in the device manager. One is under the multi-port serial adapters list. You'll have one for every one of your Digi port servers that you have installed. It's also valid for VNet devices as well. In this case here, this is port server TS2P MEI. This is the device that we had configured, which is has an IP address of 10.0.0.0.13, and it has associated with it a pair of COM ports. And those are down over here, COM port 40 and 41. If you remember, we typed in the 40 being the first COM port, and this created a second one called 41. Now, we're only plugging into the COM port 1 with the DIGI, so this is the active port. This other one here can be used for, connecting a data logger or something else, but we're not going to actually be using it with the modem. If I double click on this, this gives me the information about that serial port. This is the serial port that's on the DIGI port server that is connected into the modem. As I mentioned before, if you run into problems, one of the places to fix the baud rate, which it needs to be fixed in when it's communicating with the DIGI modem, is to come in here and adjust the baud rate to 115/200. Now, I showed you how you can do that setting in the DIGI serial port web interface, but you can also do it here as well. Again, this just locks down the DIGI, so it won't attempt to communicate at another baud rate. And of course, all the defaults still apply, which is 8, parity of none, and 1 stop bit. And if I click OK, it's hard programmed in here.